Greetings everyone, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, here to bring you another retro review from past seasons of The Loud House. In today's video, we take a look at the Season 4 episode where we were given the same conflict 3 times over, and one character in particular doesn't make anything any easier. Today's episode is titled Deep Cuts. First we'll discuss the plot, and then my thoughts and critiques with my final score. So, let's get right into it. In this episode, Luna, Lori, and Luan fight to keep their respective after-school clubs from closing, which then leads to an all-out brawl between the 3 clubs, resulting in property damage to the school, in which Principal Rivers decides to close down all the clubs in order to pay for repairs. The episode ends with the students holding a joint fund rager to not only finance the repair costs, but they also make enough money to save all the clubs from being shut down, a song everyone can dance to. Principal Rivers doesn't deserve a victory dance, but that's the least of my problems with her. Well, that concludes the plot of the episode, so now we come to my thoughts and critiques. Out of every episode where Luna is either the main star or shares the lead with another one of her siblings, this one right here is her weakest. And this is one of the weakest episodes of the entire 4th season, but I can't say it's all Luna's fault. The fault lies on the hands of the writers who took a simple concept and made a bigger deal out of it than what was necessary. The basic premise started out like the typical school-centered storyline where a club is being slashed to help balance the budget and the students have to work together to save it. It may be a predictable plot, but having fewer characters would make the story flow more evenly. The episode started with Luna and her band, and as far as protagonists go, that's all the main cast needed to tell a good story. The band could have spent the entire episode trying to save their club and ultimately accomplish their goal. If not Luna and her band, Luan and her theater club could have been the main protagonists, and they could go down a similar route to tell a similar story. Heck, I would have been okay if it was just Luna and Luan fighting each other in order to keep their respective clubs from getting cut. A bit of an overload on the conflict, but the story could have at least handled 2 sisters fighting, not 3, which brings me to Lori and her sports club. I hate to say it, but Lori's contribution to the plot really didn't make a lot of sense. If a school cuts their sports club and you can't get new students groomed for a future athletic competition, that could severely damage the school's chances of winning trophies and building a credible reputation for said school. Usually it's the music and theater departments that are the first to get the shaft, and it would be foolish to cut sports in the long term. I understand each club has a developmental value for students, but Lori and her sports club being the focus of the plot wouldn't hold the same artistic weight as Luna or Luan and their respective clubs. So yes, with the involvement of 3 club-saving sisters fighting in what was basically the same conflict 3 times over, all of which getting resolved way too quickly, they were soon fighting among themselves on who was more deserving to have their club stay, and this led to all 3 clubs going at it outside the school. An overload of characters, an overload of conflict, and everything blew up into one unnecessarily giant mess based on what should have been a simple premise. Obviously, their fighting was going to result in all the clubs, not just their 3, getting the boot after accidentally sending the school's giant golden acorn into a wall. I have a feeling that would have happened if it was just 2 sisters fighting, but so much of this could have been avoided if it wasn't for the one character who had to make things more complicated than they had to be. This brings me to Principal Rivers, the worst character of the episode. First off, how did she even get her job in the first place? And 2, what kind of outfit is she wearing? With her inability to make a final decision and wearing those clothes in public, how can anybody take this woman seriously? She has a hard enough time just trying to figure out what she wants to eat, let alone trying to competently perform her job as a high school principal. She even asks, "Why is being a principal so hard?" Yep, that pretty much says everything you need to know about her character. It's a sad moment when you realize her assistant Oliver was more dedicated to making decisions. Maybe he should have been the principal. At least he wouldn't have been so easily swayed to keep a club that was just cut after seeing the students put on a performance demonstrating why their club shouldn't dissolve. If that's all it takes for Principal Rivers to save a club after deciding to do away with it, again, it says everything you need to know about her character. By the end, they have a little fund rager to raise money, not sure why they couldn't just do that in the first place, and everyone got what they wanted and more. It's one of those endings that leaves you both satisfied and annoyed at the same time. Like everyone had their hearts in the right place, they were an antagonist in their own way, and everyone kinda got rewarded for their actions and the school benefited from them. It's a very mixed ending, but there are at least two things I did like about the episode. First, the song Luna and her band play in the beginning to save their club, and the reprise at the end with Lori and Luan doing backup wasn't too bad. It wasn't amazing by any means, but it had a good rhythm, and I always appreciate whenever Luna's band performs. And finally, there's my favorite piece of dialogue of the episode. When Luna tells everyone to chill, Luan angrily responds,
"Don't tell me to chill, hippie!"
You know, given how Luna talks and behaves as a character and how she dressed in the episode Roughin' It, what Luan said made so much sense because she's technically not wrong. Just the way Christina Puccelli delivered that line makes it even more hilarious. And let's be grateful it came out of Luan's mouth, not Mr. Coconut's. It seriously wouldn't have been as funny. Overall, this episode took one of the most conventional and simple conflicts of any show involving school kids, and they inflated it to a level it didn't need to reach, and the final product is a huge disappointment. This could have been either a Luna or Luan centered episode where they try to save their favorite club, and the story would have been just fine. If the writers wanted to do a Luna versus Luan episode, it would have been a bit much, and yet it could have been something remotely decent. But to throw Lori into the plot was an overkill, and that's how the episode started falling apart when it didn't have to. Principal Rivers was beyond incompetent and is very undeserving of having her job because of her lack of leadership decision making and how easily convinced she can be to go back on her word. So basically, the faulty writing mistake of making more out of a conflict than what needs to be done is a strong reminder of how you don't always need to go out of your way to tell a good story. Less is more, and adding more when you don't have to can make a story feel less than average. With that said, I give Deep Cuts a 5 out of 10. Well folks, that concludes my review of Deep Cuts. I will end this video with one last quick reminder of why you shouldn't add more to an episode when it's greatly unnecessary. Lincoln has two small cameos in this episode where he reminds his sisters it's time for dinner, and each scene ends with his sisters, in the heat of their argument, snapping at him, in which he nervously leaves. What was the point of him even being there? He served no purpose whatsoever, and if it was to make some kind of joke, it was a really poor attempt in doing so. Remember, if you don't need to include a character in the episode, then don't try to shoehorn them into the middle of the conflict. Believe me, this episode was more than capable of dying on its own without Lincoln. So, there you go. Anyway, as far as this episode goes, what did you guys think of it? Love it? Hate it? Something you would add? Change? Keep it as it is? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest Loud House content. That's going to do it for me. I'll catch you guys for the next video, but until then, this is SteamTeamRedubUK, CC Trainor-Ling, signing off. Peace out, home slices.